What happened to comedy films? When's the last time you recall a comedy coming out that was actually funny? I'm talking generation defining, like Woodstock, the Berlin Wall, Y2K, or rooting for Victor and Nikki because your nonna used to babysit you. If you were born after 2000, I don't know, TikTok dances, making fun of my generation, I guess. Middle parts, mullets, bell bottoms. Mingya, you guys just stole everything from everybody else. Comedy is, of course, subjective, but there were always those breakthroughs, the runaways that truly did define generations. You could almost always guess somebody's age from their comedy film of choice. Animal House, boomer, 60s. Uncle Buck, 50s. Dumb and Dumber, 40s. Tropic Thunder or The Hangover, most certainly in your 30s now. And Bridesmaids, you're dead inside. I have no doubt that we all agree there hasn't been one of these since The Hangover. Studios seem too afraid to put anything into production that's more offensive than a Splenda commercial. What was once hailed as comedic genius or thoughtful satire is now considered brash, bigoted, offensive, and grounds for the social gulag. Today's climate seems more complicated to navigate than Nonna trying to figure out her iPad.
What is it?
It's a tablet computer.
I don't want it.
But it's no more difficult than the time when Blazing Saddles, Austin Powers, or Tropic Thunder was made. Execs seem to have lost their nerve and responded to this so-called desensitization of comedy, or more fittingly, the oversensitization, and aren't even willing to take a punt on something that might even remotely push the boundaries. This has resulted in the biggest downfall of the genre. Genuine comedians no longer making films, or they've become so castrated by middle managers trying to justify their relevance in overbloated organizations that we end up with what Nonna would call garbage. There's been a significant shift from comedians looking to make it on the big screen to just gaining even more notoriety on stage, most likely as a result of studios and filmmakers being too scared to put something funny into production. But when comedy was comedy, it was Farrell, Carey, Myers, Sandler, Stiller, Belushi, Brooks, Reiner, people who understood how to get a laugh, who realized that comedy was there to push the envelope. Instead, we're left with this whitewashed, Wonder Bread panettone of comedy that's idea of being edgy is writing in a female lead that has sunglasses and a leather jacket, preceded by simply just blurting out what otherwise used to be known as a premise as the actual joke, so we end up with this bullshit. It feels like we're back in the 90s when anyone could be a comedian so long as they had an ill-fitting suit and a hacky premise. I've heard mentioned that the same overplayed tropes in comedy become dull and benign, leading us to different takes on the genre like Get Out, The Menu, Sorry to Bother You, and Thanks for Sharing. Well, they just aren't comedies. Just because you got one or two humorous lines, or you become so over-satirical to the point that the joke is lost on the majority of your audience, it does not make a comedy film. I mean, The Martian won Golden Globe for Best Comedy, which was even a surprise to its creators. I mean, I love The Martian, but listing it as a comedy so it could win an award was an injustice not only to them, but to actual comedy films. Current comedy and dark comedy classifications are now used as a double-pronged crutch to prop up otherwise uninspired films and jokes that leave you contemplating more than Uncle Sal on his front porch at 3 a.m. after he told my aunt one drink after work and he just spent the evening striking out with 3 servers, 4 shot girls, 1 bartender, and the newly arrived Filipino lady working the McDonald's drive-thru intercom. But unlike Uncle Sal's night, there might be hope. Bert Kreischer's long-awaited feature film The Machine could be the catalyst for relaunching the genre. It's the sequel to his comedy routine about spending time with the Russian mob while on a college trip in the 90s, and the trailer looks absolutely fantastic in a ridiculous sort of way. Now Bert and his father are kidnapped and forced to face the consequences of his youthful actions. It stars Bert as himself and Mark Hamill as Bert's father, and just from the trailer, you can already tell Hamill is gonna knock it out of the park. He seems to genuinely be having a good time, which is always when he's at his best, when he's given a role he can enjoy and make his own. And joy of joys, it's a movie created and starring an actual comedian, one whose success is not determined by the rule of Hollywood. He's made a name by being outrageous, and it seems finally that the studios, Legendary Pictures and Sony, are going to let Bert be Bert and bring back some of that not suitable for modern audiences movie magic that every generation loved. The fights look outrageous and over the top, the jokes seem like they'll be perfectly timed, edgy and inappropriate when needed without doing so for its own sake, and it'll actually make audiences laugh. And the acting doesn't appear to be stale or make you groan. The story seems to be well written and will be skillfully used to provide the ridiculous context for each joke and each action sequence. More importantly, this is a project that Bert seems to be genuinely passionate about, and not just in it to make a quick buck, as usually becomes the case with so many actors and comedians. Bert comes across as someone who really cares about the product he's putting out into the world. And it is quite a lot, but it's still done with artistic integrity. And I'm most excited about this because it's a genuine comedian doing the movie, and not some avant-garde piece uncaringly thrown together by a studio that's satirically commenting on the inadequacies of the ethnocentric, bipartisan, carbon footprint, capitalistic, fossil fuel privileged mindset of sports teams having both home and away jerseys. If you didn't understand what I just said there, don't worry, neither did I. But Hollywood probably already has a script, a new age director, and Brie Larson signed up, and the Oscars are gonna love it. Now, don't get me wrong, I don't think this is gonna be one of those all-time great comedy films. It may not be the White Album, but it certainly has the potential of being Pet Sounds, and that it could be the inspiration for the next great cult comedy. It might even show studios and executives that you could be successful when you push boundaries and give comedians some actual creative freedom. Bert has even made comment of him and Tom Segura teaming up with the writers of Tropic Thunder for a potential movie, and I'd be willing to put my whole boost on that it'll be the next generational movie. But it depends on the success of the machine. And really, that's what I want for the next generation. It's been 14 years since we've had a side-splitting, shocking movie everyone can bond over. Even Horrible Bosses, which is now 12 years old, it was good, but it was nowhere near the levels of Tropic Thunder, Old School, or Step Brothers. And that's what these films do. They unite generations. They become so much more than just another movie and can even have greater impacts on the lives of those who watch them than any given Oscar winner. In an era when we seem more divided than my family, the time my cugino married a putana americano, and no, that's not a drink from Starbucks.
Congratulations, you're stupid in 3 languages.
There's nothing like coming together with a group of strangers to enjoy something that was never intended to be appropriate or make you think about the current state of things, but was just created to put laughter in your belly, tears in your eyes, and make it more impossible to breathe than Kate Winslet in Avatar. This is what's been missing from the cinematic landscape for over a decade. I hope that the machine, both man and movie, can reignite the comedic fire of studios and other comedians to bring back a genre that was so close to being lost to the scrapyard of Hollywood. It may not be in the grave yet, but it's certainly done like my nonna and traded in the big spoon for some shuffleboard cues and 2-penny buy-ins at the weekly Scopa game at the Villages. What do I know? If you enjoyed the video, please like, share, and subscribe. If you didn't, thank you for watching. We'll see you next time.